Thank you, and I must say I'm very honoured and privileged to be here. In the home of the Prudential, my late father was the man from the Prue. He worked for many years in High Holborn. He took the tube every day. So what am I doing here? Well, look, I am a Member of Parliament 3 terms now, which normally would mean 15 years. But because we have had an election every other year, 3 times, this only means 6 years in my case. But it does mean that I have lived through Brexit and I have lived through the pandemic. Now people mentioned Afghanistan is a big thing in all our inboxes. And I represent the most Polish constituency outside Poland. So that is Ealing, Central and Acton. And people talk about the 04 expansions and how that brought the Poles in. In Ealing and Acton, they were always there. From my recollection, we had a Polish church since the 70s, I recall. And I think that parish was established in 1948, I've been told. So when I was growing up, I had friends called Dorota and Maci, and I thought it was quite normal to go to Polish school on Saturday to see Polish titles alongside the Ealing Gazette in the newsagent. So sort of, I guess what I want to answer this question about the twin things of Brexit and the pandemic is through the eyes of the diaspora community in West London, really. And I suppose with all diasporas, there are sub-communities within communities. So the people I grew up with considered themselves, or their parents did, as the intellectuals. You know, these were doctors. Even my school teachers, we had a Miss Jolowicz, a Miss Pichetta. And I'm very rare in that I represent my home community that I still live amongst and that I grew up in, I went to school. So, you know, my teachers, people like that, often some of them, sadly, given the age I am, they're no longer around. So it's their children that I now represent. And so there was always a bifurcation between the sort of ex-servicemen's children or the intellectuals or whoever, the people who remember the government in exile, which was in London, and the 04 plumbers and plasterers. There's a little bit of snobbery, and I know this from within my own parents who always thought they came from, well, I think it was East Pakistan, it was India, British India, it was Bangladesh. My grandmother used to say how she'd been in 4 countries and never moved house once. So anyway, they also thought they were better than, I don't know, the Somalians or whoever the more recent people were at the time. They're no longer with us. So, I mean, what has changed since when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s and now? What I would say is that, some of these things, vicissitudes happen anyway. 2011, Ealing saw riots. These were odd consumerist riots. And it was commented at the time that a leafy suburban place, saw buildings largely smashed glass, actually, nothing set on fire in Ealing. Croydon, I think, had buildings set on fire. Anyway, there was a Polish delicatessen that had been there since 1953. That chap was interviewed a lot, that he had glass smashed, and he was saying, I'm not part of these 04 more recent people. I've been here since 1953, and I had my glass smashed. That is now a Starbucks. So that is sort of globalization for you. I think he probably made, quite a pretty penny from selling that. What also has happened? Some of my friends have got other surnames. They're not called Dabski-Nerlich or Danin-Bukowski. They're called Perkins or whatever, because that is a natural thing with intermarriage and second generations. But again, we've heard this thing about the contraction of brain drain of people going home. Eva mentioned it since Brexit. So I asked for these figures. Apparently we have a 7% Polish population in Ealing, and it peaked in 2017, as far as I understand. Look, we have a lot of similarities between our 2 countries. So we have 2 centre-right governments that feel, well, if you're me, who's only ever seen opposition, so Malcolm has seen peaks and troughs throughout his long life. I've only ever been on the opposition benches. So it feels like we've had these right-wing governments in for quite a long time, 2015 in your case. And also, they seem to be defying political gravity, I would say. So, our own Conservative Party should be a low-tax party. Yesterday, they voted for, I voted against it, a tax rise for everyone in the form of national insurance, every working person, businesses at a time we're supposed to be growing out of a recession. Your government I understand from my Polish friends who come back and forth a lot, has become very popular on the back of child benefit. I just can't imagine that happening, but it's the party of the family, the Law and Justice Party, which again, the modern Conservative Party see themselves as party of the family, but I can't imagine them spraying benefits. I think the original family to 500 policy has been accelerated further. So yeah, they seem to be defying political gravity. And I'd say someone like Boris Johnson is a complete political cross-dresser. I mean, he wrote a column for remaining in the EU and against, remember this, and then tossed a coin or took the calculation that the Conservative membership would make him PM if he went for the against, although his heart wasn't really in it. I mean, look, I could go on and on. I mean, we know that us leaving the EU and leaving the European Parliament has made that EPP group a bit less viable because, I mean, it was presented to us that, the Conservatives are joining not the most far-right group, but the sort of penultimate one, the slightly, but with the Law and Justice Party in there, at least Conservative Party gave that some respectability. Now they've gone, that ballast is missing. I mean, we both managed to escape the euro, didn't we? I mean, we're never going in that now, or not in the foreseeable. I still harbour hopes that maybe, not immediately, but 10 years' time, I would like to see in my lifetime that Labour could be a rejoin party, because I think it was a monumental mistake. I mean, I've been told not now, did you learn nothing? If anyone internally pipes up about this, it's seen as, we saw the loss of the red wall seats last time. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But, I'd like to see one day that those sands will shift. But you guys escaped as well. You still have the zloty, proudly.
Yeah. Yes, we have.
I mean, climate change we're supposed to be talking about a little bit, aren't we? Climate change, I think, is one of those things that is too big to be another Boris sort of whim or U-turn or, bluster. And as far as I understand, so we have a very ambitious target in the UK to be carbon neutral by 2030. I think that will mean a 78% reduction of emissions. I think Poland has also signed up to the Paris Climate Accords, which are legally binding, but they have no target date. And I wonder about our own government, because so many things have been U-turned on. International aid, the pension triple lock the other day, no border down the Irish Sea, oven-baked deal. We could do a long list of these. No tax rises, the list goes on and on. But look, I mean, on the whole, I think what we have seen is that I get lobbied about unusual things. Rafał Ziemkiewicz, he wanted to come and speak in my seat in Acton. So I had people emailing saying, don't let this hate preacher in. So then I made representations, and in the end he didn't come. But I also had the odd person, I think they were outweighed by the people that didn't want him coming. He's a Holocaust denier. I have 2 synagogues as well as a Polish church. I've been to Poland, I think, 4 times now. One of them was to Auschwitz. So, I mean, it doesn't completely count because I did not see Poland as Poland. It was a long day where you go around the death camps. But anyway, my point is that, I get lobbied on things other MPs don't. So some people were saying you've, stopped free speech, but most people did not want to see him spreading hatred in the UK. Also, just recently, our council did a policy of, I think it's part of national policy, to make driving more onerous for people, because if we're going to cut climate CO2 emissions, so if you sort of make, I think block is the wrong word, but make it, people have to go a long way round. They will be discouraged from driving. Sorry, I'll finish on this one. And I wrote an article in the Sunday Telegraph. So some of us can do political cross-dressing. That's a right-wing newspaper, but they would take my copy on low-traffic neighbourhoods. I said, people feel they're living in ghettos. Someone wrote in and said, my parents lived in a real ghetto. How dare you use that language? So again, I think other MPs would not have been told that necessarily, but it's something I'm very aware of. Anyway, look, the point is, I think the Polish Brits are a very resilient community, despite Brexit, despite the pandemic. They are here to stay. They are a law-abiding, tax-paying, generally respected community. And, as an opposition MP, I get asked, our figures are not great at the moment. What do you think of the polls? And I always say, I don't trust the polls, but when it comes to the settled community in Ealing Central and Acton, I do trust the polls.
Thank you.